this Nevada, Missouri man. And the Arizona hand count is complete. The latest election audit results from the 2020 presidential election, and how an arm created from Legos is a game changer for this 8-year-old in France.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
One man is dead and another in jail after a shooting in a Southwest Missouri parking lot. This is KOAM News at Noon. I'm Tanya Bach. Topping our first 7 minutes, murder charges are filed following the shooting death of a 32-year-old man at the Nevada Pilot truck stop. Prosecutors charged 62-year-old Stephen Vignola with first-degree murder for the death of Justin Goolsby. Both men are from Nevada. The shooting happened Wednesday night. After responding to shots fired, police and sheriff's deputies found Goolsby inside a vehicle with gunshot wounds. He died later at the hospital. Officers arrested Vignola near the scene. No further details have been released. Well, COVID-19 has complicated the way 4 state fire departments train their firefighters, and the virus certainly hasn't made life easy for the men and women of the Diamond Area Fire Protection District. It forced them to temporarily close their doors to the public in 2020, and in 2021, it's canceled in-person training courses run by the state.
They're looking at more doing the internet classes online instead of very many personal ones, except for the departments that request training. Then they will do in-person training at those departments.
The Diamond Fire Chief says the online fire training courses are helpful, but do not replace the learning experience that comes with an in-person instructor. So the department is taking matters into their own hands. The Diamond Area Fire Protection District will be opening its own training facility in Diamond later this year. Independence, Missouri police are honoring one of their own today. A fallen officer killed in the line of duty. And last night, officers from around the Kansas City metro and several from Springfield, Missouri, escorted Officer Blaze Madrid Evans to his visitation. Emily Rittman shows us how the young man helped to save a life even after his own death.
2 officers from 2 different departments face danger in the line of duty while serving their communities. Independence officer Madrid Evans was shot and killed in the line of duty on September 15th. He had worked just under 18 shifts with the Independence Police Department. He was still completing the field training officer program.
You know, for somebody that's 22 years old to lose their life, everyone's grieving the same. Everyone is, trying to work through it the best they can.
Last June, Springfield, Missouri police officer Mark Preby was severely injured when a suspect intentionally hit him with a vehicle.
We had Officer Preby was hit in the line of duty right outside our police station, was paralyzed.
Officer Preby fought to survive those injuries. Then this year, he learned he needed a new kidney.
Overcoming that and him getting better every day and every month, and then this hits in this year.
The 2 police officers are now forever bonded. Officer Madrid Evans, who was an organ donor, was a match for Officer Preby.
And to have this answered prayer from up here, something very special to us.
Members of the Honor Guard from the Springfield Police Department drove to Independence to thank Officer Madrid Evans and his family for the gift he gave to help another officer.
Thank you. And we can't thank you enough for that, because it's something special. And we hope that they get a chance to come down to Springfield and meet Heather and Mark.
The ray of sunshine that came out of it with the organ donations and being able to save so many other lives.
Law enforcement officers will be beside Madrid Evans' family members as they grieve to show their support.
It shows that he mattered to the community.
Law enforcement officers from multiple agencies are answering 911 calls in Independence today to allow Independence police officers to attend the funeral and grieve. Well, if you weren't ready to say goodbye to summer, hey, you've got at least another weekend of these lovely hot temperatures. Michael Hayslip joins us for the first look.
20-degree increase in Joplin alone from when we finished the morning show. 20 degrees, and we've done that with a little bit of cloud cover even. Here's a live look outside of Television City, and speaking of those high temperatures, almost equaling where we topped out yesterday. So we got our peak there on Monday. We got our valley on Wednesday, and now we are headed right back up as we see 77 in Joplin, already 81 in Neodesha. Look at those 80s running in Chanute, Parsons, and Independence. Monette at 74, and Miami a 24-degree increase from this morning as it's at 74 as well. And the big factor really has been the increase of our winds. You can tell there as it works into the blue and the yellow, already blowing 20 to 23 miles per hour in Chanute and Independence. Even Nevada clocking in along with Joplin at 17 miles per hour. Now, the cloud cover certainly hasn't slowed us down. A little bit thicker down to the south, and that's where we saw our cooler temperatures as we've actually had some low pressure replace the high pressure that we had past couple of days. But look at all the rain. It's going to stay in that inverted L shape up to the north of us. Not going to drop down on us, kind of follow the jet stream and head toward the Great Lakes. As we get into the afternoon, if we're already throwing up some 80s right now in southeast Kansas, probably topping out about 84. And then the community's sitting about 74 right now, probably high 70s. Don't know if they'll quite get to 80, so we'll average it out and say around 81 this afternoon. And it stays dry. All the precip staying up to the north, even on the north side of Kansas City as we get into a Saturday. Yeah, we'll get a steady dose of 80s on Saturday, and then Sunday. That's the hot one, Tanya, bringing back the 90s for the beginning of next week.
Too hot for me.
Little break
I'm
there.
ready. I've been enjoying this fall weather. It's
middle
nice.
of next week. We'll get the break.
There. We'll get there. All right, thanks, Michael. Well, one person is killed and a dozen wounded when a gunman opens fire on workers and customers yesterday in a Tennessee supermarket. The Kroger store is located in an upscale neighborhood outside of Memphis. Police say they arrived about 4 minutes after the shooting started and then found the suspect near the back of the store, dead from an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. They say it appears to be a case of workplace violence. Some of the wounded are in serious condition and remain in the hospital. 10 months after President Joe Biden took office, GOP challenges and recounts of the 2020 election remain. Now, the latest is in Arizona, where the state's GOP-led Senate hand-counted votes and reviewed election equipment in their largest county, Maricopa County. That review just affirmed that Biden won Arizona. Today, the state Senate will receive the audit. That's a look at today's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Up next on KOAM News at noon, we meet the YouTube sensation who's using Legos to help change lives. And later, we're making sloppy Joe meatball sandwiches in the Mr. Food Test kitchen. An 8-year-old boy from France loves Legos more than ever now that he has a prosthetic arm made from the toy bricks. CBS's Ian Lee shares his story.
Life hasn't been easy for Beckner. The 8-year-old from France was born missing several limbs, and getting a prosthetic that fits wasn't easy.
Prosthetics are mostly standard. They are big and heavy. So for his spine, it was not a good idea.
So Beckner's mom reached out to YouTube sensation David Aguilar. Better known as Han Solo, the bioengineering student created his own prosthetic using Legos and was willing to lend a hand.
Does it fit your fashion standards?
Yes.
Okay, so I have one more question for you.
Okay.
Do you want to see the prosthetic?
Yes!
I can hear you!
Yes!
The act of kindness changed this young boy's life.
Now I can grab things with my hand. Before I couldn't.
The new arm also built his confidence.
His self-esteem is high now, comparing to what was before.
This project got Aguilar thinking, if he could do it with Beckner, why not another child? He says maybe a girl or boy missing a leg or foot.
Yeah!
Beckner's new Lego arm lets him do more kids stuff, whether it's playing catch or just goofing around.
Very delicious.
Ian Lee, CBS News.
What a cute kid. David Aguilar made headlines back in 2017 for his Guinness World Record for building the world's first functional Lego prosthetic arm. Still to come on the KOAM News at noon, Mr. Food.
Is there really some guy named Joe who was so sloppy they named a sandwich after him? If that's the case, what's next? The Sloppy Howard?
But first, Michael Hayslip returns with your complete and not so sloppy forecast.
It's a four-state weekend that is chock full of activities, whether you be out at the high school football field this evening, could be college football tomorrow afternoon, and don't forget, we not only have our Healthcare for Heroes going on at Landreth Park over the weekend, but also 24th annual Carl Junction Bluegrass Festival. So you pick your poison and you're going to have a great time out there. I think one thing to make sure is make sure you stay cool. Now today's not going to be too bad, just maybe a couple degrees above normal for this time of year. Well, let's start by talking about our temperatures and our wind, because right now over 7th and Rangeline, well, we've grown about 20 degrees since this morning. We've also got the wind increasing just about 20 miles per hour. Still got that smattering of 80s in southeast Kansas, from Neodesha hopping out at 81 there to Parsons. The southern portion of the four states was actually the coolest this morning, and that's still where we're hanging on to 74 in Miami, 75 in Anderson, and then 77 looks like our dominant number running from Carthage to Nevada in southwest Missouri. The last wind gust we had at Joplin Regional Airport was 28 miles per hour. Now these winds that we're seeing are sustained measurements. So Independence and Chinook, that's going to be gusting about 30 to 35 miles per hour right now. It gets a little bit better when you get south of I-44. Look at Grove, only coming in at 7 miles an hour. And of course, that plays a big difference in those temperatures, because we were talking about southeastern Kansas already being in the 80s right now. And that's why it's a little bit higher when it comes to our wind totals. Now, everybody remains on the dry side. You see that one sliver up there running from Nebraska through Minneapolis, where it's about the only precipitation we even have in the Midwest. As far as our temperature change, certainly not as drastic as it was this morning, but already warmer now than what some people even topped out with yesterday. Another big difference, we had a whole lot of blue sky when we had those mild temps. Where did this cloud cover come from? Well, if you go back and remember, we had that string of high pressure, this is from yesterday, that ran from the Great Lakes down to the Gulf Coast. But here's what it's been replaced with today. In fact, that low pressure almost mimicking the exact same line where the highs were, but now the highs have moved on the eastern side of the Mississippi, giving them a whole lot of blue sky and forcing all that precipitation that was in the northeast. But pretty much off the Atlantic right there. And then you see that backward L shape. That's that humidity that we were talking about from Nebraska through portions of Iowa and then through Minnesota. But really, severe thunderstorm risk map hasn't changed, and don't even have the low category popping up. So that's very, very nice weather for late September. Here's what we're going to be keeping our eyes on the weekend and into next week. It's Sam. Now a Category 1 hurricane, and this thing is going to become a major hurricane by next week. We're talking about moving into a Category 4 as it approaches Puerto Rico, probably a 3. Now, at the same point in time, we talk about our plots and how sometimes those are skewed, and you'll see one that goes haywire on you, and we say it's too early. Nah, this is very, very eerily consistent about where Sam is going to head. So about the middle of next week is when we'll really see it play a role as far as flooding and even the possibility of that thing scraping landfall in Puerto Rico. Right back here at home, let's talk about a high school football forecast, because it's going to be absolutely gorgeous afternoon. So when we get to the evening, temperatures on your right-hand side, those are for 7 o'clock kickoffs, looking at pretty much low 70s, a couple high 60s on there with partly cloudy skies. Wind is going to stick around, so it'll be a little bit blustery. And then after that, sit back and enjoy a marvelous weekend with all those activities. Like I said, if you're going to be out and about it, specifically on Sunday, don't need to worry about the humidity, just making sure you stay cool.
All right. Yeah, definitely. Want to stay cool. Hydrate. Thanks,
At least
Michael.
it won't be humid. That'll be the nice part.
We take this time to honor today's four-state hero, Army Specialist Jacob Allen from Fort Scott, Kansas. Allen served with the U.S. Army in both Iraq and in Haiti. He earned the Iraqi Campaign Medal twice, along with the Humanitarian Service Army Commendation Medal. Specialist Jacob Allen, we thank you, our four-state hero. If you're known to get messy at the dinner table, then today's recipe is just right for you. Howard shows us how to make Sloppy Joe meatball sandwiches in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
The other day, I was doing a bit of research to see if I could find out who invented the Sloppy Joe sandwich. I was wondering, was there really a guy named Joe who was so sloppy they named the sandwich after him? The The more I looked, the more confused I got. The only thing that was consistent is it's a sandwich made with ground beef mixed with tomato sauce and served on a hamburger bun. So to take this all-time classic to new heights, watch what we do. We start by sauteing some onions and peppers in a bit of vegetable oil until tender. To that, we add a can of Sloppy Joe sauce, some water, and brown sugar. After it's mixed, it's time to beef it up. Rather than adding traditional ground beef, we'll add frozen meatballs that we cut in half. The meatballs make this a bit chunkier and gives you something to bite into, while the sauce brings back all those memories from your school cafeteria. When you serve this up in a roll, it's one of those recipes your family will want you to add to your weekly dinner routine. It's that good. To get the recipe for our Sloppy Joe meatball sandwiches, all you have to do is visit our website. Now, we may never know who the real Sloppy Joe was, but let me show you the way this was meant to be eaten. Keep your hips back and your arms positioned like this. Then just go for it. I'm Sloppy Howard in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found a sloppy but tasty way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
I think you might need a bib, Howard. You can find this recipe along with a lot more good food from the Mr. Food Test Kitchen online. Just go to our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Here's a look at our 4-state market prices.
For a career.
One final gander at the high school football kickoff forecast. Going to be in the low 70s. Absolutely gorgeous with partly cloudy skies. Just remember, it is windy today. Coming in from the south, we've already picked up gusts of 30 miles per hour. Heating up over the weekend, mid 80s on Saturday, low 90s on Sunday.
All right, what do we have coming up tonight at 5?
Well, at 5, as the Delta variant surges nationwide, there's increased demand for a treatment that can keep high-risk COVID-19 patients from getting seriously and severely ill. In Health Watch, we're going to meet a high-risk patient who only ended up with mild COVID symptoms after getting monoclonal antibodies at onset of his symptoms. Plus, a move for residents living at Medical Lodge in Girard, Kansas. Officials at the Living Assistance Facility say it's due to a workforce crisis. And we'll meet a local finalist in the Most Talented Beard Contest. Join us for those stories, a whole lot more, of course, and it's all coming up today on KOAM News at 5.
All right, thank you, Dal. Thanks for joining us for KOAM News at Noon. We'll see you right back here at 5 o'clock.